Hi, my name is Noah Suderman, and my dad is a Patreon supporter of Third Floor Wars. I listen to Tabletop Talk because of the hard work and effort that Craig Shipman puts into every podcast so that his viewers can become better Malifaux players.
I got taxidermists flying down the board. Wong's shooting his own people in the butt, basically, tell him to get going and doing his dirtily, dastardly deeds. And you had to learn that balance.
Howdy, friends. We've got a fun episode today. We're going to do a deep dive into the Bayou Master Wong. And my guest is Chris Short, who comes out of the Midwest area there. And boy, his enthusiasm for not only Wong, but the game is pretty infectious. He has some really interesting core crew choices, and he gives us a lot of flexibility on how to play Wong. I was very interested to find out that he started playing Wong one way and then has now found himself with a completely different play style, but with the same crew. Enjoy.
Playing a tabletop strategy game allows you to unplug and test your skills against friends. Every week, Third Floor Wars delivers useful strategies, discussions, battle reports, and reviews to tabletop games like Malifaux. If you want to get better at the games you already play or discover the games other people are playing, you are in the right place. Craig and Ray welcome you to the Third Floor and the Tabletop Talk broadcast.
Craig here on the Third Floor. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the Bayou Master Wong and how the Wiz Bang crew works in Malifaux 3rd Edition. Now, our guest today is Chris Short, and Chris is coming out of Findlay, Ohio, and he's been playing Malifaux for a while, since 2E beta. Now, Chris, I understand you used to be a Thunders player, but now you are playing around with Bayou. So first off, welcome to the Third Floor.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
So the first question I always ask everybody is kind of how did you get into Malifaux, or how did you find Malifaux?
Well, I had a buddy that tried pulling me away from 40K. Of course, it's a common thing, either fantasy or 40K. What brings us all, it's kind of the gateway drug into tabletop minis. But I had a buddy get me into Malifaux and really didn't want anything to do with it. I like the big war games, but ever since I got the card mechanic, I couldn't go back to dice. So I'm officially out of Games Workshop's stronghold. And pure foe right now.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it, man? Once you kind of get that agency and the power that the control hand gives you, it is tough to go back into dice. One of the games that I've pre-ordered and I'm excited to play because I tested it out at Nova is the new Crisis Protocol, the new Marvel game. And I mean, it's got everything. It's a skirmish game. It's got Marvel superheroes. I can't wait to paint the models and stuff. But I'm not looking forward to throwing dice again.
No, I don't blame you.
All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on the Wiz Bang crew. And I want to kind of find out from Chris how he plays Wong, how he kind of builds the crew. I want to find out how the crew plays in general. I want to find out if there's any certain tech pieces in the crew that he brings in based off of what the pool has or maybe what the opponent declares. And we'll finish off by talking how to go against a Wiz Bang crew. So for those of you that play against Bayou and someone puts Wong on the table, this will hopefully give you some ideas of how you can mitigate it. So, Chris, let's assume that someone listening here is not familiar at all with Wong. They've never seen him on the table before, and they're either thinking about using him or maybe they're afraid they're going to be facing him. What kind of master would you consider Wong to be?
Well, in 2E, he was mainly known for his blast, and they kind of took that away, not by kind of, but they just switched it from a blast to actually shockwaves. So he basically is throwing grenades. He doesn't have to target, so that gets around a lot of, I would say, stealth and a lot of defensive tech that would stop people from getting targeted. So he mainly likes to I don't know. He's a very surprising master. If you don't know what he's doing, it's kind of the old mentality is let him beat you around a little bit, and then the second time you play him, you kind of know what to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think that's true of a lot of the keywords that are out there. But for him to be moved over to a Shockwave Master is, to your point, a really big deal because when you look at abilities, defensive abilities, either given by terrain or that are built into the model, it's all when you're targeted. And the other thing that I've noticed, and I'd be curious if that's true with Wong, is when you're up against something that's putting out a lot of shockwaves, it just drains your hand. Are you finding that your opponents are having a hard time keeping a control hand?
In the beginning, when I first used Wong, because I've played a lot of games with him, I'm one of those players that when people are sitting around and they're like, hey, this master's garbage, but these masters are good, I kind of look at them like, well, challenge accepted. And I've been finding that the first time I started using Wong, I was going what I call aggro. I was basically putting Wong in a position where he can attack multiple models because you really don't want to, bunch up because he has multiple, you'll be flipping so many cards that he will drain your hand.
Yeah. But so it sounds like now you say that you started off playing him aggro. Do you still play him aggro, or has that changed?
I've kind of honestly switched. He's went more on the support side now. So it's not so much, which we'll obviously talk about it in a little bit, but it's not so much he's targeting the enemy models. He's actually surprisingly attacking his own models.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Well, let's talk about kind of his signature abilities. So what is something that's signature to Wiz Bang and signature to Wong?
All right. So the main thing with Wiz Bang is they like to kind of attack their friends. And normally that's not a good thing. But in this Wiz Bang crew, just about all of his models has hard knock life. It's just a general thing that they all have. It's after this model suffers damage caused by another friendly model, this model gains fast and a glowy token.
Nice.
So imagine throwing soul stones potentially at your friends and making them fast by giving them any suit they basically want. Right. Just by hurting them.
So I guess we need to talk about the glowy tokens then, because they're a little bit different than they were before. So if a model has a glowy token, what can he use it for? What's the benefit?
So it's similar to power tokens with Hoffman, except all these do is actually give suits to their abilities. So a Bakor, which we'll later on talk about, is an obeyer basically, and they like masks, obviously, as most obeyers do. So you don't have to have that mask in hand if you have a glowy.
I got you. So it obviously makes triggers a lot easier, certain targets that require a suit a little bit easier. And really, I would imagine there's a bit of an imbalance that you create as well. So if you're using this stuff offensively and potentially draining their hand, but you're also potentially giving your friendly models these glowy tokens, you're putting pressure on their control hand and you're relieving some of the pressure on yours.
Yeah, that's correct. Also, I don't want to leave out, glowy actually has multiple uses with other things. The Swine Curse actually can use their glowy as damage reducing, and there's no maximum. So as much glowy as they have them, they can burn that glowy off. So if they would have 4 glowy on them, they can actually reduce 4 damage. Now, it doesn't say reduce to 0, so they would at least take 1, but that basically is potentially better than shielded and armor because it would still allow it to reduce unless it was irreducible.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about some of the offensive, because you mentioned you used to play Wong that way. So let's talk about his main attack.
Okay, his main attack is Fazap. So now he is, to my knowledge, the only master, obviously most of the models actually, that he actually drops 2 shockwave markers. So they don't have to be in any radius except for the range. So potentially you could drop 1 shockwave 10 inches away from Wong, and then one on the complete opposite, as far as you can get. So it's basically chucking 2 grenades, and it is a Shockwave 2 move 13 damage 2 duel.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Now he has 2 triggers on it, and one is Surge, which of course is draw a card. And he also has Severe Injury, which would be given Injured 1, which it's honestly, it doesn't really matter to Wong because he's actually targeting a move. So Injured with defense and the willpower, it doesn't really help Wong. It just helps basically weaken a model for other models to attack.
Well, and what's cool too about that fact that it's a Shockwave 2, and like you pointed out, you can put it in 2 different places, is you could do, one, you could hit, you don't have to have your crew bubbled up, right? So because you can hit 2 different points if you're trying to hit your own models. And 2, I could do one Shockwave offensively and the other one to target a group of my own models, right?
That is right. And actually, speaking of my own models, is it actually benefits you to target your own models, which can make them the Shockwave marker. And it bumps up the move duel. So instead of a 13, it goes to a 15 move duel. And if you target his totem actually is also an aura where it increases the TN for any simple duel by +2. So it would be a 17 move duel if you target the totem. Now, it also has a detriment. So if you pass the duel, you actually gain a glowy token. So you are kind of darned if you don't, darned if you do, because you'll glow even brighter. And so when you finally fail your duel, you'll actually take +1 damage for the amount of glowy is on you.
Wow, that's cool. It's a neat mechanic. I got to be honest with you, Chris, I haven't played against Wong yet or even seen him on the table. And I kind of like the look and feel of what we're talking about here. That's very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about his defensive tech. So what's keeping Wong alive? So
he does have Counterspell. And in my opinion, it's not as strong as it used to be because it's a 6-inch aura from him. So if you're 7 inches out, you're not having to discard anything for your triggers. But he does have something real big, though, and he has a quick getaway. So after resolving, so as long as I have a mass or soulstone for one, I will push up to 5 inches in any direction. So that's better than a squeal. And boy, that sure is. And he also has evasive. So he's not going to take any damage from pulse or blast. So the effects go to 0. So he won't take any damage from his own doing. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And I see he's got 12 wounds, so he's decent. And he's a 5/5, which is good, not great. But how? I just out of curiosity, in the majority of your games, how often does Wong find himself on the table at turn 5? I'll be truthful with you. I can't really recall since I wouldn't say figured him out, but I basically as close as I can. I haven't lost him once actually, because he's not part of the fight. He's chucking grenades from a distance and not wanting to get in anything close to anybody. Yeah, but if someone gets into him, he's got some ways to get out of it, I can see. And boy, that 10-inch range on that Shockwave is a big deal because that does allow him to play back but still influence the board. Well, it's basically about if you don't target one of your own models, well, even if you do, you basically got a 12-inch threat because it's the pulse is 2-inch because it's a Shockwave 2. Yep. And you gain a little bit from the marker as well, right? Yep. So it's a plate. Very nice. So yeah, so you gain a little bit. So how about his tactical actions? What are you using those for? So I actually have a little bit of as a start to everything. And he likes to be in the middle of all of his crew because he has a free actions, the glow. So basically what happens is he discards any number of glowy tokens from everybody basically around him. And for every 2 glowy tokens, you actually get to draw a card. So, but nice. At the end of the action, everybody within range gains a glowy. So what I most generally do is I start him in the middle. I do the free action. He's not receiving any glowy, so he's not drawing cards. But what he's doing is he's fueling all of his models around him. So he's basically generating all this glowy and giving him suits and everybody around him, kind of a cheap little glowy, and then he attacks them.
That's really interesting because I don't think I would have thought of that on the first read, because it makes it clear that you can remove the glowy tokens, but even if you didn't remove them, that's not a requirement for the action. They still are going to gain a glowy token at the end.
Exactly.
Nice. Very nice. So let's kind of talk through kind of a turn one with him. So it sounds like he's going to have his crew close to him to give out glowy early. Does that sound right?
Yep. He starts in the middle of all of his crew, and I basically like to put him in two groups. So most generally, he would start in the middle. He would pass out. So he's one of the rare activations that you actually start a master early, just to get everybody pumped. So he basically would start in the middle, do the free action, and most of us, actually, all of his actions need a 6. So very low. Don't really look for soul stones with him. He passes out glowy, and then he attacks his 2 models to start the glowy machine.
And he's doing that with his shockwave.
Yes, he's targeting his 2 of his models that he chooses in their groups, and then they do the pulse. Now, you would think, okay, you're going to just start bombing your own models and knocking them down. Well, most of his models actually has their blast resistant +2. So they're going to reduce all the damage and then just take 1 damage from it.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And that's where we get into kind of that support action. So he does the pulse out. He attacks a couple models. Are you then moving him up, or are you happy if he doesn't move at all on the first turn?
Well, most generally, I usually just do one big attack on the models, and I usually get them up to about glowy 2, and then every single one of my models is fast. So
nice.
They're suffering 1 damage, and then they're all gaining another glowy, which is usually up to 2, and they're all basically fast, and they're ready to go. And then I most generally have the totem beforehand sometimes drop a ski marker, and then I get into my launch into space, which would be a very key thing to do for some of the schemes later on that we talk about.
What's that do?
Launch into space is actually, we went over it a lot for the range. We all determined that it says just dropping a ski marker. So basically what happens is he removes a corpse, a scrap, or a ski marker. And during the next start phase, drop the remove marker in this model's line of sight, not touching any terrain. So unfortunately, I can't get any easy search the ruins. But basically what happens is, and they also have a 3-inch pulse, any markers dropped by this action must pass a TN 14, moved or suffer 1 damage. But the trick is to get that mighty tome. The tome is when dropping the remove markers, drop an additional marker. So if you're picking up a ski marker, you are actually going to be dropping 2 ski markers. Now, the thing that really hits home is when it's in this model's line of sight.
Yeah.
There is no range except what he can see. So, like we're going to be talking about earlier, power ritual. If he can see the enemy's back corner, that ski marker is going right there.
Oh, that's cool. That's super efficient.
Super.
Yeah, and you only need a 6 of tomes or better to get that trigger.
Get 2 of them. Yeah.
Oh, that's very, very cool. Well, that kind of gives us a little bit of idea of how Chris looks at Wong, and we're probably going to get into more kind of the style of play when we talk about the crew. So let's take a quick break, and when we get back from this break, I want to talk a little bit more about the crew itself. So we're going to find out what are some of the key models that Chris hires as soon as he declares his master. We'll be right back. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about, kind of Chris's approach, especially, and I love this about 3E because I hear this from a lot of people when they start a new keyword is that, I started playing it this way. And then as the more I played it, I realized I get, better effect playing it a different way. So Chris, When you are building your Wiz Bang crew, what are some models that always make it in? Obviously, the totem is the first one, so let's talk about that.
All right. Well, the totem's pretty simple. She's a defense 4, willpower 4, so she's not a big fan. With only 4 wounds, she doesn't really want to get in there. But with her TN +2, she gets in there a little bit. But anything in Reckoning, you kind of want to keep her away. I basically make her a little scheme runner sometimes to drop my scheme markers for Wong to pick up and throw, or maybe launch and pick a pole.
Well, having a significant totem is a big deal. And let's see, her name's Olivia Bernard, right?
Yep.
And I see she's got low defense, low willpower. She's got 4 wounds, but she costs 3, so she's pretty good. So she's dropping scheme markers. Let's talk a little bit more about what happens when you target her.
When you target her with just she'll gain the fast, and then she'll gain the glowy. She puts out her aura where whatever is taking a simple duel, it makes it +2. So does a lot with Wong targeting her if you choose to. If you got to get that last 2 wounds and you're like, well, you want to survive this thing. I mean, only really a Rooster Rider is move 7 is actually going to need a 10. Everybody else is going to need about 11 or a 12 just to pass Wong's target if he targets Olivia Bernard.
Gotcha. Okay. So looking at Olivia's card, the first thing I want to get a sense of is her bonus action. Can we talk about set charge?
Oh, set charge? Yeah, that's actually a really good thing that we've been trying to figure out a way to use it really good. Until end of phase, after this enemy model ends in move base contact with a scheme marker or scrap marker within range, all enemy models within 3 of the markers suffers 2 damage and then remove the marker.
And what's key there is that there's no flip, right? It just happens.
Yeah, it just happens. And most of the time, I don't really see my opponent like willingly walking up to one of those and suffering 2 damage.
Gotcha. Is there things that are doing offensive places or pushes in the crew, or that can cause that to really kind of tick off?
Not so much pushes. She does have some friends, they're the cores that are good in obeys, so they could just tell them you walk over there and then stand and hit that ski marker. And of course, they have the Gluttony, I'm pretty sure is the name of the Sin 7 models, Crossroads 7, not Sin 7. And there's a little combo that we've been talking about, and I don't know if Oliver's leading it in the little Bayou crew that we have in the Facebook Messenger, but there's some ways to set up to do 4 to 6 damage, actually.
Interesting. So I see, and actually, I just realized that she has an offensive bonus action as well, that toss sparklers, which is doing that glowy token and the burning. But the other thing I noticed when I look at her card too is that Fancy Cane that's not too bad. A totem with a 2, 3, 4 damage track with a 1-inch range.
Yep, that's one of the setups where you could get them to push into that ski marker just to do extra damage there. So
very nice. So after you've got Wong, you've got Olivia Bernard hired. What is your next hire?
I'll be truthful with you. My next hire almost always is 2 Bakors. They have a pulse heal. So the typical first turn is I target the Bakors, and they don't have the resistance to blast, so I don't want them to take 2 damage. So if Wong targets one of his own models, they only suffer 1 damage,
right?
Which of course gives them fast and glowy. And what they do is they actually target each other with their healing energy. And if I don't have the tome for healing burst, I can of course use a glowy.
Right.
And it basically I have everybody bunched up together, and the models within a 2-inch pulse of the target heal 1. So all the damage that I did to all my friends, actually, they're healed right up to full by just usually 1 7 of tomes.
That's nice. And I got to tell you, the Bakors are models that I'm seeing hired out of Keyword, out of Wiz Bang. They're strong models.
They're very strong, because if one of them, even outside of Wiz Bang, if they get attacked and you have a voodoo doll hit them and deal 1 damage, they gain that fast, they gain that glowy. And besides the tome, actually, there's a bigger one that I think after the 1 heal, they're spending all their AP, and it's Deja Vu on their healing energy, which is on a crow. You want to hear card draw. This is card draw mechanics. So they actually discard a card and draw 2 cards.
Oh, nice.
So if you are having 2 Bakor and they have 3 AP and a bunch of glowy, even a model that doesn't need healed, if you spend that glowy, you got that ace, and you can discard it. I've actually went from not having over a 7 in my hand. By the time that I use both Bakors, I have 2 13s, 2 11s, and a 10 and a 9.
Yeah, and that healing energy, and that's all part of that healing energy. It's tactical action. Now, I noticed the target number is a little high, right? Stat 5, you need a 7, right?
Yep.
But boy, it's worth it. It looks like. And then I also see we've got the ability to hand out shielded as well. So it's pretty obvious why these guys are being hired. And I also just noticed too that they're dual keyword. So we should see these in the Swamp Fiend as well.
Yeah, you're seeing at least one Bakor, and every Zareta crew I've been seeing a lot. I'm a new henchman, so before this, I know maybe Zareta fix, if that's what they're calling it. I actually have chose not to use Zareta. We had a Neverborn player use her a couple of times, and just there's too many feel badsies.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow my community, not anger it. So
it's funny you say that. I had a conversation with Oliver, and for those of you that are listeners, you've heard Oliver on the show. He was one of the guys that was on the Nova show, and Oliver is in a similar situation where he's a relatively new henchman who's trying to grow his community over there in Eastern Virginia, and he went through the same process you did. He had to put Zareta on the shelf just because you don't want to be, when you're trying to grow the community, you don't want that much negative play experience as she can do, especially, I mean, pulling Zareta out on an experienced player is one thing, but for a new player, that's a brutal master to go against.
I have to agree. Yeah, it's the old term, quit hitting yourself. So all these models in these key positions, and all of a sudden Rusty Alice is shooting, Leviticus in his face.
Yeah, no fun. So we got the totem. We've hired 1 or 2 of the Bakor. What's next?
The next thing, it all depends. So there is a henchman that is currently not out, and I'm not a big beta tester with not having the model in my hand. So I'll do a brief thing. He's basically Wong's henchman. He has an ability which is toss, of course, which is it's pretty rare, I think, in the game, but the toss is mainly that he only can throw somebody under his size. Now, he's being size 3. And so most generally, he can throw a lot of stuff. Most of Wong's crew is actually size 1. But there is a couple models that I wouldn't mind to toss. So he does have an ability that makes him 1 stat higher. So he could basically throw a Swine Curse, which is height 3, 10 inches down the board. And,
wow.
And there's actually I've been waiting for his box to come out. I really want his model. I have some evil little abilities that we're going to get into, and it's just basically going to power him up by throwing him into walls. Purposely.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so the model's name is Alphonse LeBlanc. Yeah, that toss ability, I'll tell you, man, the more I think about it, the more I play, the more models I see using toss. It's such a strong ability.
I agree. But there is one model that can even throw farther.
Who's that?
It's the Pigapult.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about the Pigapult.
So me playing in 2E, I don't think I ever pulled out the Pigapult one time. I just didn't see it. And it took me a little bit to see it, but until Alphon comes out, I think 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have a Pigapult in my crew. So he is quite large. He is size 4. So he can see some stuff.
Yep.
He does have a decent attack, which is a 12-inch ignoring line of sight, a little 2-3-5, and he does have a trigger that it kind of most of your conversation you've had with what do Bayou fear? Bayou doesn't like armor most generally. Wong's crew if you're anticipating armor, is actually the Bayou crew that you reach for if you're worried about shielded and armor.
Interesting.
They like having their glowy on them as well. So there's a trigger on a tome from the Pigapult, and it's discard a glowy token. When resolving damage from this action, it is irreducible.
Oh,
no soul stones, no shielded, nothing. You're going to take the damage that's dealt. He does do 2, 3, 5. So it's not bad, but I'll be truthfully, the Pigapult usually doesn't shoot anybody, directly. He usually likes to have his friends go on a little flight plan called full load.
Yeah, this is so good.
It's an 18-inch range, so it's getting down the board. It has a crow built in, which we'll go through in a minute, but you choose a friendly model, size 1, and it's within 2 inches of them. So the chosen model gains slow and is placed anywhere within range. Until the end of the phase, it cannot take interacts. Okay, so it's a Shockwave 2 move 15 duel. So if you throw Olivia, it's going to be a move 17 duel. Now the damage is just damage 2. 2 is better than 1 in my opinion, and it's centered on the chosen model. Now, there's been a big debate, and I'm pretty sure I saw in the Henchman forum how you felt if that was you or Ray. But the model getting thrown takes the duel and suffers damage in what's been determined. If it's wrong, I've talked to many TOs. Every tournament I go to, I say, hey, before this whole thing starts, I want to know what you think. And everybody's talked about how the damage is centered on the model. So there's a key to this, why I got excited when I found out about this. But
I'm definitely of the agreement that, unfortunately, that it does take the damage. But go ahead, explain why that's significant.
Now you say unfortunately. Now I say yay. So.
Well, it's because I don't play Pigapults. I play against them.
Yeah, exactly. So real quick, I'll go over the crow, which is if this chosen model is a stuffed piglet, then and it's not killed by the action, it may take the bacon bomb action. So basically, what I thought you do with the Pigapult is, which you get a free stuffed pig with every Pigapult. You throw the stuffed pig, they do the duel, the piglet dies, the stuffed pig dies, and then it pulses out another potential damage TN duel, and that's all the reason for the Pigapult. Until I looked at the taxidermists.
Right.
Now, the taxidermists, they're a wonderful little thing. So the original setup I take with them, if I'm going against Terrifying or not, it doesn't matter. I actually take Inferiority Complex. Now, they're a cost 8, and it's a rare thing that I wish they were a cost 9. Yes, I want a model higher cost. Because they gain Ruthless, so they ignore Terrifying Manipulative when I put this complex upgrade. It gives them Swagger, so if they do walk, they'll gain, Focus. But the main reason, they're minions. And with minions, with this, they gain Bully. So, they have the magical influence. So when they have glowy on them, they can use them for suits. And also Bully, if I'm targeting something lower cost, they can gain a suit. Now, the reason why this is so great is because they have critical strike.
Yep.
So they're 2, 3, 4 actually spending a glowy. And if they're targeting something, lower, or they have that ram, they are 4, 5, 6 damage.
So good.
Now, the reason why the Pigapult's so great now, so they gain fast when they get injured or basically attacked by their own friends. So when a model gains slow, fast and slow are canceled out, so they both wipe clean. Well, in the timing, as the Pigapult throws you, you gain slow, and then you land, and if you fail the duel, you take damage. So you are removing fast, gaining slow, which cancels out both, and you are gaining fast 18 inches down the board.
Right.
So you gain 3 AP by going 18 inches down the board. There's nowhere they cannot touch round 1. And a double teaming taxidermist with min 4 damage makes masters cry.
Yeah, I bet. And, I have yet to see that. So I've seen the little trick I saw with the Pigapultnik, and I really was not a fan. Is the guy was using it? I think it was in a Somer crew. He was using the who's the mechanic?
Sparks. He's doing the stuffed piglet throw 6 damage. Is that what he was doing?
Yeah, that is just brutal. Where he uses sparks to load up the pig, and then the pig launches. Or he was actually, it wasn't even a pig necessarily. He was doing it with one of the
you can do it with a lightning bug.
Just one of the regular little guys.
Oh, he was doing enough 3 damage. Yep.
Yeah, and it was just, flip after flip, but then some of that damage just happened, and it was very, very brutal. I mean, I had McMorning and had not seen this combo before, so of course McMorning's got everybody bunched up nice and tight in flank deployment because I'm trying to get all my poison out, and he did that to me and basically wiped me off the table. Turn 1. It was just absolutely brutal. So going back to the Pigapult, so you hire the Pigapult. It's going to come with a stuffed piglet. You bring in a taxidermist as well. Is there anything else that's going to help facilitate everything with the Pigapult, or is that going to be enough?
Well, the taxidermists also get free stuffed pigs. So if you do go the stuffed pig shuffle, then you can do that as well. And I did that once with Sparks, and that was when I was using aggro Wong, because I would go with Wong earlier and drain their hands. So that move 11 duel, when the stuffed piglet is targeted, he actually can gain glowy and actually get up to a total of move 14 duel. So what was happening was the stuffed pig was going down, dying, doing the 3 damage from Sparks bombs in the belly upgrade.
Yep. And
as well, doing a damage 3 injured 1 duel. So potentially you could take 6 damage in a 2-inch pulse.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. It's pretty gross.
It's easier with the lightning bugs. I'll be truthful with you. It's there's no duel. You don't have a choice. You're taking 6 damage.
Oh, that's he did not do it with the lightning bug, but let's talk about the lightning bug, because is that a common hire with you as well, or is that just something you bring in just to facilitate the Pigapult?
When LeBlanc comes out, I might try not using a Pigapult, and I'll be doing the Swine Cursed throw, and lightning bugs will be in there. Now they have a similar heal as the Bakors, but you need an 8. Instead, and on the tome, instead of doing the pulse, the target gains a glowy. So if I want to power up a Swine Curse, then I want to throw as much glowy on it as possible for protection and for free onslaughts and stuff like that.
Got it. So now LeBlanc, who's the unreleased henchman at the time of this recording, I noticed he's definitely fills also a beater role because he's got a nice 3-4-6 huge fist attack. And we've been talking about the Swine Curse. So let's get into the Swine Curse a little bit, because I have a feeling that they're another beater that you're bringing in. Yeah,
Swine Curse are actually pretty great. The only downside of them really is that they actually only have a willpower 4. So if you're going to go against any crews with terrifying or manipulative, they're going to be a little rough for you unless you have that swagger upgrade. Mm-hmm. And with only being, I know it sounds crazy, but with only being a cost 7, I don't really see the bully coming in very much. But I do see the glowy tokens really doing a crazy amount, because they have that irreducible damage as well for full power. So if I want to send them in, they have a 2-4-5, and if I spend that glowy, luckily if I get a tome, I only spend the glowy to discard instead of spending 2 every swing. But they can do that irreducible damage. But what I'm finding doing more is actually the onslaught. So not everybody has, sorry for the Arcness BS again, but the little spiders, the overacting swarm, not everybody gets built-in masks. How that got passed, I have no idea.
It's pretty incredible.
It's like give them fast and watch them go. And I actually have to spend tokens to give me onslaughts, but
which is somewhat reasonable, right? To expect that, not having
I have to spend resources. Yeah,
right. Yeah, or have it on plus flips with a built-in onslaught. That's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
but anyway,
nothing's bad there, I guess.
And you know what else? I'm looking at their tusks, which is their attack action. That rampage is pretty good on a crow too.
Yeah, if you can set it up, I mean, everything's positioning. So an experience which I kind of enjoy not having people experience with Wong, because I get that jump on him a little bit. I wouldn't say gotcha, but I get that. I mean, it happens once, but that might be the only chance they got is it happens once. And I don't know if they can come back for it, because if everything's bunched up, these swine curse, they can bounce around and just start beating on people. Especially, they're going to be fast. It's not if they're fast, it's right. They're going to be fast. They're height 3. Wong being height 1 usually can't see, in front of his own people, but they can see a swine curse. And then being on a 40 mil, they even reach out and touch you with that blast even easier.
Yep. No, that's good. So now that we get a sense of the really nasty damage dealing that we're talking about, and of course we talked about how the little trick there with Wong to get the ski markers out there. Is there anything else running schemes for you in a Wiz Bang?
It's kind of so we have to get out of this 2E little funk. The obeys from the Bakors, to my knowledge, they can make you drop one of their ski markers now.
Yep.
So that helps out a lot. The Pigapult, of course, turn 1, when the taxidermists are going 18 inches down the board, if they don't even move anymore, they're setting up for turn 2, because either I drop a taxidermist in the back corner and then flip a turf marker or something for round 2, are you really going to want to come and say to a taxidermist, I'm going to deal with you? Or are you going to let them scheme instead of make a taxidermist turn you into a stuffed pig?
Gotcha. So it sounds like you're getting a little bit of versatility out there, so that if someone, because you can put models in so many different places with that Pigapult, you can quickly decide, you know what, this guy, this taxidermist who can deal out a decent amount of damage, I'm just going to have him drop schemes. It all depends on what your needs are, as opposed to having a dedicated scheme runner. Yeah,
it's basically instead of only having a model be good at one thing, I mean, anybody significant can drop a ski marker or flip a turf marker. It's just the position you put them in and the position that your opponent puts them in. I mean, if I have a beater that can, get me a point, I'm going to get the point. If I'm not going to run and go try to take out an insignificant model for fun, I need to. Everybody's got AP, and I mean, Wong's crew can get a little bit more AP, but you got to watch your wound count.
So is there anybody in Keyword that we should talk about before we move on?
There is one model, and I don't know if it was Oliver that basically called me crazy, but at first when I was using Wong, I said, why is anybody running Sammy or LaCroix? She's double Keyword with Ophelia, of course, and so Kin and Wiz Bang. She didn't seem like she had much. I mean, a very low 1-3-4, voodoo pins, Jinx, and then it kind of hit me. So she has Jinx, which is just a little 1-2-3 damage, and he gains injured 1. And she has a magical influence, so she could spend Glowy for tomes or whatever suit she wants, but she has a glimpse of the void. So anybody that plays Terra knows that.
Yep.
TN 14 willpower duel. Well, when she does it to you, you're actually gaining injured and then doing the test.
Oh, so it's really target 15.
Yes. And then she attacks you again. And then, heck, if you make it again, she attacks you again. And it's a stat 6. So, I mean, it's a very low. You're not doing it to damage them. You're doing it to get that glimpse of the void going off. Or if you've been aggro Wong, they aren't going to have any cards to cheat, and they're going to be buried.
Well, and also with her tactical action, her bonus action, she's got range 8 scheme removal, which is a really big deal. And not only that, but you're removing an enemy scheme marker and you're summoning off of it. So that's a big deal.
Yep, she's summoning stuffed pigs, and everybody loves stuffed pigs being on the board.
Yeah. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that it's a stat 6 with a target number 14 with a crow, but with glowy, you're not too worried about that crow. So just with an 8, the ability to remove a marker 8 inches away and then get a model out of it, that's efficient.
You can also, if it's in Reckoning, I'll never do the flying pig, but the flying pig in this edition is actually significant.
Oh, I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, you can actually summon a significant model.
That's big.
They're not great. They only have 4 wounds. They actually have flight in this edition, hence the flying piglet. In 2E, they didn't have flying.
Right.
But yeah, you really don't want to attack with them. Wacky gremlins are still around. They may be called Bayou, but they're still wacky, where you have to do the declared trigger, and they don't have really good ones. They actually have ones that benefit your opponent, actually.
Gotcha. But they do have showboating, which is nice. They're only cost 3, so you can only, and they got 4 wounds, so you can only ask so much. Real low defense and willpower. So getting out of keyword then, is there any versatile models or out of keyword hires?
Now, I have played with it, and I wanted to try it out, but when I had a Swine Curse build, I had the mechanical pork chop. He's pretty armored. I know the guys talked about it in the Brewmaster crew talk, but it has one of those little sneaky things you don't think about unless you played them a couple times. So they have their ability Rage Machine. So after a friendly model within 3 declares a scratch action, that model may suffer 1 irreducible damage and receive a positive to the action duel. So I've actually had a slow Swine Curse decide to take that damage, which gave him fast, which canceled out the slow, and gave him a glowy. And then I had him attack again. So I went from having a slow Swine Curse to actually having a fast one. And wow. I think I ended with 3 glowy on him, and he was fast. Wow. And he started with nothing because I was close to that pork chop.
Yeah, that's nice. Now,
so a little sneaky.
There's a lot of synergy in this crew, and that's pretty obvious based on what we've talked about so far. Is there any second masters you're ever hiring into Wiz Bang, or is there just not room for a second master?
I've been trying, and it's every time I'm just like, you know what?
Yep.
I got 2 taxidermists, and they have those upgrades. I'm spending 20 points, and then I've almost reached for Zip a couple times because Zip is more independent. But Wong being height 1, I don't want to put any pianos in anybody's way because they don't have flight.
Yeah, and that would start to reduce his line of sight as well, which is something definitely I get the feeling that Wong doesn't want to do. Let's talk about some of the generic upgrades. You touched on a few. Can we go through which ones you use and where you put them again?
So I use the conflict more than anything with the taxidermist. I've put 12 cups on Swine Cursed and basically make them move, about 15 extra inches now I think about it. And Twitchy is just wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, a little 1 inch. People think, oh, it's just 1 inch. Well, when most of the time your opponent has 8 activations average, my crew usually has 8 or 9. They're getting places, and if I want to put them in harm's way or in my opponent's, then they'll be there. And then of course I get them in there with diversion, and nobody within 4 inches enemy-wise is doing those free actions. Yep. And some models, they really need their 0 actions.
I'll tell you right now, 12 cups of coffee is disgusting. And for any of the listeners out there that have not looked at that upgrade, look at it and then think about it, because it is incredibly powerful, and you only need to go up against it once to really feel it. Because not only are you getting, a lot of times we'll think about it, being able to be very aggressive, say turn 1, but those little 1 inch moves and pushes are huge as far as getting out of engagements. It's a big deal. I've only played against Bayou, but that 12 cups of coffee, every time I see it happen, I'm like, I got to read that card again. Is that really? Yeah, it's really what it does. Okay.
Yeah, the twitchy for the minion side is really hits home.
Yeah,
like really good. I mean, the diversion's really good. The main thing that makes the upgrade really good, which is most upgrades, is that you know your own crew, but you know what your opponent's crew that doesn't want to happen. So if you get into a big group and they really need these zero actions to do something, even the snipers, if you get into their snipers, they aren't going to push away.
Yep.
And but a lot of people has been talking about Wong's hurting a lot because he's size 1. He can't see over his own models. So some people has been putting the 2 gremlins in a ghillie suit to make them one more height, and you make them disguised. I haven't honestly really did it because, I mean, in the beginning I position, and then basically turn 2, I'm mostly shooting my own models again. And then they're not in the big groups, but I'm shooting my own models. I mean, I don't need to see over them. I shoot them, and then if there's an enemy near them, great. But if there isn't, great. I'm making my own models fast. Usually hitting my Bakors, to be truthfully, just for that heal. Because it's tactical heal. So they'll heal themselves and spend those glowy for the crows, and then just get that card cycling going. That's why I don't really take soul stones. If I start with a crappy hand, as long as I got 7s, then I'm happy. I'll be cycling them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to see what you're talking about, kind of that different way in attacking your own models, especially with the amount of quality heals that you have. And then it's not just healing, but you're also getting some nice card cycling out of it too. So that's good.
Basically, shooting yourself, in the foot, isn't always a bad thing that our parents always told us. So, the only model that I was thinking about, going back to the keywords, out of keywords, I just wanted to do a brief thing. It's going to be a broken record, but Big Brain Bryn.
Yeah.
I would love that extra card. And then I had a recent tournament lately. I was hoping I could come on the show and tell you I won 2 tournaments in a row, back to back with Wong power. But unfortunately, that Dubois Colette, those dirty Arcanist terrorists, got at me, and I was trying to figure out a way to shut her down. And I know Wong really does good by the move duels because I'm not targeting her defense, but that sober up on Big Brain Bryn would have been really nice, giving her stuns, and I could have just watched the tears. I could have just watched the tears, but I'm trying to look into a little bit of Bryn, but I never thought I would ever say I'm a themey player, but it seems like I haven't been really taking anybody out of keyword yet, but I really want to try to get on there and see if it's worth it.
Well, it's the only way you're going to find out, right? Is getting him on the table and trying him out. And I think I like the fact that you're already thinking of him as a potential tech hire, depending on what you're going up against. And with Colette being the target, anything that targets and makes Colette hurt, it makes me happy. So,
yeah.
So, Christopher, let's take another break. And when we get back from this break, I want to talk a little bit more about where you're finding Wong excelling. So we're going to talk about the pools, what strategies Chris likes to bring Wong into, and if there's any schemes out there that Wong excels in or that Wong denies. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Keith Suderman, and I'm a patron of Third Floor Wars. You'll never mistake me for a competitive player, but I really enjoy the analysis and the advice I get from Tabletop Talk. You should be a patron too. Head on over to patreon.com and search for Third Floor Wars, or just click the link in the show notes below.
So how much are 3 or 4 of these episodes worth to you a month? Third Floor Wars has a Patreon, and if you think they're worth $1, $5, $20 a month, swing by and become a patron. We have polls to decide the next episode of the pod, along with early releases of articles and podcasts. Everything we release goes out to everyone, but sometimes our patrons get a head start. The link is in the show notes, or just search for Third Floor Wars on patreon.com. Thanks for the support. Hey, want to take a quick minute to thank some of our newest patrons. We really appreciate your support. Thank you to Andre, LaShawn Allen, Geir Hagen, Dave Gross, Vlad Barrow, Gazgul, Robert Singer, Joseph Garrard, Matt Carter, Corinne Soles, and Matthew Overton. We appreciate it. I love the synergies that Chris has been talking about. It's part of what kind of came with the keyword system, and one of the things that makes me like M3E better than I even liked M2E. But Chris, I want to talk a little bit about the pools. Is there any strategy or maybe two strategies that if they're flipped and that's part of the pool, you immediately consider Wong? What strategies is he good at, or does he deny well?
So out of all four, it sounds like a broken record. Everybody just thinks, oh, my master can do it all. My master can do it all. Well, when everything but plant explosives, because that's zip. That's a zip thing. Plant explosives normally, but reckoning. The corrupted idols with the Bakors. Yes, I know. Gain grounds 0. Hurt. But, actually, I think, having an obey at a distance for corrupted idols, instead of that model being in Hell's Kitchen, right there, taking wounds, moving it, and then just being a prime target. Yep. In some ways, you got to look at it the other way, where I'm telling one of my models to do this thing, and I'm suffering the damage out of harm's way, 12 inches away, and then I'm just going to heal myself again.
Well, that's the key there is the fact that you've got the heals to recover from it. So your Bakor is out of danger. It's forcing that to push through that idols, and then it's able to heal back up again, all while being away from the hotspot, which is where the idol is.
Yeah, in that and Reckoning, where I have those taxidermists that their models are going to go off, hide behind a wall in their area, and they're going to think they're safe. And then, I got a fast landing 18 inches away taxidermist move 5, I'm going to get to you. And they're the rare ones that actually have a 1-inch scratch, which in, 3E standards, that makes them a rock star.
Well, and the mobility that you've been talking about, Chris, I would imagine it allows you to be very threatening in turf war. Oh,
yes. I played in a tournament in actually Slam at the Ram. And I don't mean to boast, but it's actually my first year Slam at the Ram. I took that with Bayou as well. So nice. I love Indiana. I will gladly come to Indiana whenever you folks want. I got an invitation to the first con that they have. I think it's called Indy Storm. So yep. I'll be playing in that tournament as well and trying to keep it coming back to Ohio. But no, I had a game that was turf war, and I threw my taxidermist to the 2 corners and just held the turf marker there, and I flipped him, and I basically just held the taxidermist there and just waited for him to try to come and get it. And let's just say they didn't come and get it. So
yeah. That's that mobility and the ability to get the pieces where they need to be is a big deal. And when we're talking about the mobility, it's not just that pick-a-pole, it's all that fastest you got thrown around too. How about on the scheme front, Chris? Is there any schemes that the Wiz Bang crew does well in?
I think with Wong's shenanigan, depending on, of course, the table, because some tables are more scattered than others, but if I just get a little slither, I'm going to take Power Ritual all day. And yep. It's been rare, but I actually took what a lot of people always say, you're crazy for taking 2 heavy scheme marker dropping. But with Wong, with his tomes, yep. I could drop Power Ritual and I could do Harness the Ley Lines all together.
Yeah, that marker efficiency that he's got it makes a lot of things a lot more doable. So harder ones, the ones I think about are the harder ones, like detonated charges can be tough. But with his ability just to be able to drop them in line of sight, that makes even those more doable, or even dig their graves.
Yep, dig your graves, because it's at the beginning. So they're going to see it coming. So if you can fake it, if they think it's dig your graves, they're still going to move away from it. But you got to try to fake it and drop it where Harness Ley Lines would be, and maybe they'll just leave it alone and try to get out of dodge if it's wrapped up with somebody. So it's really good for dig your graves. It's really good for about everything. And actually, I had one of the fellow Bayou players, Slam at the Ram, he kind of enlightened me with it. And he looked at it as a fast, glowy thing because it lands by one of anywhere in line of sight, and your models will take that duel. And if they get hurt, that's hurt by a friendly action. So you can drop it by your friendlies, and Wong doesn't even have to spend an AP by shooting them, making them fast and glowy. I mean, I'll cheat down to take that 1 damage.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. What are some schemes that someone should not pick if it's in the pool and they're going up against Wiz Bang? What does he hard counter?
It's kind of, if they want to do anything like assassinate, Wong is really a horrible idea because he's not going to put himself in danger. So I would never suggest to anybody assassinate. Now, I know some of my friends, they think I think that, and then they give it a try, and I've actually been known to double walk my super fast move 3 Pigapult. And actually, I had a Bakor obey and threw Wong 18 inches away from everyone. Yeah, so I sent Wong on a little trip, and he was a wizard. He was a wizard flying, but assassinate's the main one. I would never suggest because he's not hurting himself like he is his other crew. So,
well, and I think that's a good tip just in general, Chris, and something that I think that people don't think about with assassinate. So a lot of times what they'll do in trying to assess whether they want to take assassinate or not is they'll look how resilient the master is, and you look at Wong and he's killable. Right. So if I'm just looking at his card, not putting things into the proper context, but the piece of assassinate that people need to remember is the mobility piece. You don't necessarily want to take assassinate against a tough master who's hard to bring down. And you really want to reconsider taking it against a mobile master, which we've already established, even with just the Pigapult, just how mobile this crew is.
Oh, yeah.
So, Chris. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So, Chris, let's take one more break. When we get back from this, I want to learn from you what you consider kind of second level play with Wong, and I have a feeling which direction that'll go. And I also want to talk about things that people can do that makes Wong sad. So we'll be right back. Howdy friends, Craig here. With 3rd edition Malifaux released, it's time for you to get a new mat with new deployment zones. We've tried every mat in the business, and nobody has better quality and selection than Mats by Mars. They're waterproof and they roll and unroll easily, and they're even wet erase Marco compatible. They offer over 35 designs and let you add M3EO overlays for making deployment and positioning a breeze. Check them out at matsbymars.com. They are offering a sweet discount for our listeners. After you found the perfect mat, use the promo code 3rd floor to get 10% off your entire order. If you really want to support us, in the notes of your order, request that our logo be put in the corner of your mat. It's the only way to make the best mat in the business even cooler. Again, that's Mat by Mars. Use the promo code 3rd floor to get a 10% discount. Details are in the show notes. Howdy folks, Craig here. Now if you love gadgets as much as we do, you're going to love the new 3rd Floor Wars Gadget Bundle from Schooner Labs. Branded with the logo of your favorite podcast, it comes with 2 measuring multi-tools, a compass stepper for those tight and important movements, along with a compact dashboard to track your turn, strat, and scheme scoring along with your soul stones and pass tokens. It is the perfect bundle for anyone who plays Malifaux or just wants to look cool while doing it. The link is in the show notes. Check them out and help support your favorite gaming podcast. Now, Chris, what I'm finding is that there's a lot of depth with a lot of these keywords. And, you read a keyword and you put it on the table the first time and you play some of the obvious things. But the more time you play with a keyword, you start to learn some hidden strengths or some hidden tactics that may not have been obvious the first time. So what is some second level play that someone's going to maybe come across after they've gotten Wong on the table maybe 5-10 times?
Well, so the second level, there always has to start at a first level, of course. So I felt the pains that people talked about where they're like, oh, Wong is unplayable. And I was thinking, I need Al. I need Al before I start playing Wong. I started off with putting Wong in too much danger. So his gun is 10 inches, his Fizat. So what I thought you had to do with Wong is use that Pigapult, of course. You got all those stuffed pigs. and I'm trying to summon with taxidermists. I'm not really seeing the damage dealing with taxidermists. So I'm throwing stuffed pigs, passing the duel by spending a 10, a 9, because they're so slow. But I'm trying to get in position where the stuffed pig is in the middle of a bunch of guys, and I'm doing the fazap and using Wong aggro really bad. And then I'm shooting the stuffed pig twice, getting that glowy built up. So it'd be a move 13 duel. So people are, spending the cards to pass, and then the stuffed pig's blowing up and doing more. And it was working okay, but I felt like something was struggling a little bit. And then it kind of slowly built up, but then I reached out to my fellow Bayou, dirty swamp hags, and they were helping with the taxidermist ideas. And when we had that discussion, I learned about the pigapult doing its own damage. So it hit me, and I said, holy smokes. I got taxidermists flying down the board. Wong's shooting his own people in the butt, basically, tell him to get going and doing his dirtily, dastardly deeds. And you had to learn that balance of, should I shoot my own model and give him fast? He's only going to have 2 wounds now, and I got a Yasunori licking his chops the whole entire time.
Yep.
Those Bakors, I'll be truthful with you. The Bakors and the Pigapult are the key. They are the key. You got mobility, you have healing, and I don't know how many times. I mean, you need a 9 amass for a Bakor to get an obey off. And I can't tell you how many times I've made Yasunori charge into his own people, and I had 2 cards, so Yasunori's got an onslaught. So I'm turning his own models against him. Those Bakors, and until I see Al come out, and then I'll give him a run. I'm going to give him a thorough 5-6 games before I say, is the Pigapult leaving or is the Pigapult staying?
So it sounds like part of that second level play is what you're talking about, Chris, which is finding that balance, not getting Wong into trouble, but making sure that he can influence the board, leveraging that mobility, and learning really what maybe the taxidermist can do, not what you thought they should do. Is there any other second level play or things that people maybe not have thought about?
Going back to the swine curse. So basically, everybody gets all cocky when I come up and I have a swine curse only with 4 wounds, and I've got him up to 5 glowy. So it's kind of a little tricky that people are like, well, that swine curse is going to go down. I mean, he does have a defense 6, so he can stand up defense 6, but those willpower duels, they're going to beat him down a little bit. But his backup is that glowy on him. So learning to use that glowy for that onslaught or to hold it is going to be basically just very much trial and error. You got to look at the cards in your hand, and if that dreaded black joker hasn't showed its ugly face yet, don't get too cocky and only leave yourself with 1 glowy, because that swine curse will go down. So your second level play is going to be, am I going to shoot that model, or am I going to just see if they'll flip a card for a move 13? And I will tell you the biggest thing, and me and one of my friends, Scott, we're talking, it's just like those terrifying duels. Everybody's like, well, it's just an 11 terrifying duel. But I'll tell you what, I don't know how many times that I needed like a 6 and I flipped a dang 13. And that 13, unless you're playing Big Brain Bryn, that 13's gone for the turn. So doing that little move 13 duel, everybody's like, oh, that's an easy duel to pass. I'll just pass it with this. I'm like, all right, well, you flipped that 11. And now you're going to attack me, and now you just flipped a 2. That 11 was on top of your deck until you did that little simple.
Yeah, anytime
duel.
You're forcing your opponent to flip cards, to try to pass duels, it's good. I mean, obviously playing Rezzers, you learn very quickly just how good terrifying is. And there's the concept of the saturation. And something I'm picking up from you, Chris, talking through this is you are just saturating your opponent with card flips, and, a little bit here, a little bit there. And, so I only need a 6 to pass this. I could just cheat that in, but you only have so many 6s in your hand. Pretty soon you're staring at your 10s and your 11s going, oh, God, do I want to cheat that to pass this? Because then I have plans for that card. And that if you are draining hands and putting pressure on the control hand of your opponent, things are definitely going to go your way.
Yeah, when I do use aggro Wong, he is a card drain, and then people when they're flipping, they're all cocky looking at me. They're like, "Look at this! I flipped another 10. Oh, I flipped an 11. I'm going to take all this glowy, and I'm never going to fail a duel." And I'm just thinking, I'm like, keep on flipping those 11s, keep on flipping those 12s, because when I send in the taxidermist or in the swine curse, they're going to be sitting in your discard pile, and nothing's on your deck.
Yep. So, Chris, now that we have a sense of really some effective, tactics to get the most out of the Wiz Bang crew, I do want to find out what you hate to see. So, what are some things that somebody going up against Wiz Bang could do or bring into their crew that would make Wong sad?
So he has a lot of so there is the armor when you use aggro Wong, but I've been finding, like I was talking about, I got away from aggro Wong and I went to support. So I got away from the armor, which is every Bayou player saying, "Oh, it's the armor, it's the shield." Well, it's not. I'll be truthful with you. The biggest thing I hate to see is sitting across from Outcast. Are they going to drop Terra?
Interesting.
Terra is basically Wong's almost kryptonite. I mean, you're not going to see Terra 9 times out of 10 in Reckoning, so I don't worry about that. But when I'm putting fast on all of my models, Terra's laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, I would imagine the same is true against Pandora as well.
Yes, Pandora's just taking my fast away and just gaining positives.
Yeah.
I also don't like Zoraida, because if I'm doing the rare aggro Wong, I'm trying to drain your hand. All you're going to do is just get it right back. And you can turn my glowy swine curse against me.
Yeah, I mean, you're spending all of these resources and actions to load up models to then have any obey out there using, all of that time and resources spent against you. It has got to be bad. Any other? So that's kind of some masters. Is there anything, tactically? I mean, I would imagine bunching up against Wong's a bad idea.
Yeah, as long as you spread out. If somebody uses aggro Wong, if you spread out, you're going to negate it a little bit, but he does have the double shockwave. And if I'm using my Bakors, I actually get those obeys off, because I only need a 6 for zap. So I don't need to spend my big resources to get that zap off. And I'm going to obey you to bunch up with your friends. And if you can get stealth helps against the obeys. It doesn't help against Wong's aggro Wong. But like I said, I mean, I don't know a lot of people playing Wong right now, so I can't really say how they're going with it. Mm-hmm. But the support Wong has been working out a lot. So he really just, if you're going to go against Wong, just space out. And if he's got Bakors, you have to target them. I mean, you got to take them out.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is target priority. So if I'm looking at the support Wong build and facing something that's similar to what you've been talking about, the Bakors, I would imagine, are a target priority. What else should I focus on as far as helping to dismantle some of this power?
I would pressure the Pigapole a little bit. Yes, he's armor 2. He's a low defense, so blasting off of him is great. Yes, you're only going to do 1 damage or whatever because they're all blast resistant, but you honestly want to kind of spread out the love. You want to do the 1s, the 2s, the 3s damage, and then because if Wong's crew is full and healthy, I can sacrifice those wounds and get them fast. But if I'm only at half, and I don't want to hit those taxidermists, I'm like, oh, they're going to be in the stuff. And then I don't want them to have 3 wounds because they got squeal, and that's about it. They don't have swine cursed, the reducing. So if you're ticking away at all my models, that's a little scary for me because if I don't have the heel's at 8-inch. So I got to put the Bakors in harm's way. And that's kind of feeding you, like going out in the open. And I got a Bakor, and they don't have really squat for any defense unless you're, engaging them. They don't have an engagement. So you could walk up almost at base with them and drop a ski marker and smack them and kill them. So they don't have anything defensive.
Yeah, that I could see where the kind of the grind could end up catching up to you, because you're really depending on having the flexibility to take some damage and heal it later. But if you guys are floating and grinding down to low wounds, you don't have that flexibility.
Oh, I'm a end a turn 3 tournament crazy Wong. If I'm getting to turn 4, I did some practice games, and I'll tell you what, turn 5 Wong, I mean, he isn't going to make it. Like he's alive, but all of his crew is hanging on a thread. You need that turn 3 end, and I'm not saying slow play or anything. I'm saying in the heat of the moment, I mean, you only can heal your guys so much, but they're going to get out of range of all your Bakors. Your Bakors are going to be sitting back just, shooting heals at each other or at themselves and doing that card drain. But when most of my models, they're almost always, all my models are down to 2 or 3 wounds by the end of the round.
Oh, that's interesting. And that's a good thing to keep in mind, I guess, when you're going up against a Wiz Bang crew, is that, by turn 4, turn 5, you might be in a much better position if you can survive those first 3 turns. Yeah,
Oliver made it a good saying there. He's like, we're glass hammers. I mean, we like, when I send a taxidermist, I usually, like, when I catapult 2 taxidermists, I keep them together, because I've killed Lord Chompy Bits turn 1 multiple times. I'm double teaming a big baddie, and I want to go after that key model. So if you have a key model and you have a feeling that I know which is going to be holding your crew together with glue, keep them safe. I mean, I don't know if you can bunch them around, or, I mean, it sounds horrible, but holding them back, don't get them anywhere up. I mean, remember, I can go 18 inches and I'm a move 5 and I'm going to be fast. So I'm going to get to you, but do you want me to get 3 swings on you, or do you want me to get 1?
Right. No, that's a real good point. Well, Chris, this was very interesting. I was really looking forward to this because, again, I had not played against Wong yet, but he's always been one of my favorites out of Bayou. From a lore perspective, I've always loved the model and the look of the crew. So I appreciate you sharing all this. Is there anything that you want to plug before we wrap up?
I do want to plug. I know I'm an Ohio guy. I'm going to be running my first tournament somewhere next year, out of Northwest Ohio. So, all my indie boys, and, I'm hoping that I can get somebody back alive in Michigan. I mean, I want to plug anybody in Michigan that's playing Malifaux, because I have a group of guys. There's usually about 5, maybe 6 or 7 of us. We kind of jokingly call ourselves the Finley Boys. And we'll stretch. We'll go to South Bend. They're regrowing theirs in South Bend. Indianapolis is doing great out there. Columbus, Ohio just had a tournament, and we're coming back alive. And I have to, honestly, I know your head's probably not going to be able to walk out of your room, but I think it's mainly you're the one that is growing this, Craig.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm actually, it's going to sound like a hot date, but I'm actually going to plug you, big guy. Okay. You doing this US Faux Tour has just brought so much life, and I don't see it being negative, and that's an accomplishment, Craig, because normally big tournaments you might bring out the worst in people trying to get to that top. Now I'm fighting. I want to see you at your first tournament. Like, I want to see this first big one, and but I think so much life has been brought back in because there's something that we're fighting for at the end of the tunnel, instead of just, oh, well, I'm the best Malifaux player in Northwest Ohio.
Sure. And
somebody out in California is like, you aren't nothing. Let's meet up in the middle. And then I go to Adepticon, and, but I mean, if you can bring us all together, I mean, we're a little bit bigger than the UK. So it's, there's going to be airplanes and all types of craziness. But
yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, part of the reason, Chris, I appreciate you saying those things, man. But part of the reason Ray and I really thought that the US Faux Tour could be a thing is because of the kind of players that we saw in Malifaux. I mean, obviously, one of the things you fear is the game, a competitive game like Malifaux, turning into kind of a negative place. But I just we never saw that with, highly competitive players in Malifaux. We're a lot different than highly competitive players in 40K or even old fantasy. So we thought that there was a spot for it. And I'll be very interested to see, next year, how many people we can get to hop on a plane and come out for that first Masters tournament. And, even for the side tournament itself, you have to have some sort of tepid expectations for that. But it makes me really happy that I am seeing some excitement around it locally. And I think that that's been one of the things that's nice about the conferences is that you may not be able to make it to Raleigh, next October, but, you can compete to be the best in your little meta, and in your group. And some of these conferences are pretty large, that Central Conference, the Great Lakes Conference. And, to be able to, hop in a car and drive a couple hours and drive that desire to play in more tournaments, it gets me excited. So, I will definitely let Ray know your kind words, man. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, and me and my buddy Scott, we talk a lot, and then we try to help each other out. He plays Rezzers, and of course is I don't know why anybody would want to play Neverborn, but I love my Thunders. I'm trying to get back, but we always scheme, and he's totally stoked. He's talking about even if he doesn't make the top where he can be in the big championship, he wants to get on a road trip, and he wants to come and play in the other tournament that you're hosting and everything. They're really fired up about.
Oh, that makes me happy, man. I'll tell you, we're excited about it. We're really looking forward to it, and hope it kind of gives a nice place every year for everybody to get together and play either in the Masters or the side tournament, but more importantly, to get a chance to shake some hands and flip some cards. So that sounds good. Well, Chris, I do appreciate it, my friend. And I hear Chris is getting in a car and driving to go see people over in Indiana, and he's been putting in his miles. So when Chris starts putting on his tournaments, my expectation is for people in the area to do the same. So good luck to you, man.
I appreciate that. And Craig, I have one more question for you.
Yeah,
real quick. All right. So you're having this in your big USFO tour in what city?
It's either going to be in Charlotte or Raleigh. We haven't determined yet.
And then you reside in one of these cities, correct?
I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. Yeah.
So I was wondering how many nerds could fit in your basement so that they all in hotels, because it's a little expensive, and I didn't know how big your basement was, how many nerds we could fit.
So I don't have a basement, but I do have a third floor, of course.
You do have a third, yeah.
But no, there'll be some hotel rooms that'll have to get in there. So my hot tip there is that it's going to be in October and November. So start saving up. My hope is that it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what. What's your max? What do you think your max player is going to be?
So we're going to allow 32 players in both events. So the Masters, we're going to end up with 32 players. And then the side tournament, what we're calling the season finale tournament, is going to be also 32. And obviously Masters is invitation only, but the side tournament is going to be, first come, first serve, whoever buys tickets. I think the big thing for everybody to keep in mind is two things. One, if you think you're going to qualify, when tickets go on sale in the summer, you're going to want to buy a ticket to the side tournament, because that can be turned into your Masters entry automatically if you do qualify. But the other thing that's key too is let's say we invite 32 people for Masters. The chances of all 32 showing up and us not having some space in Masters is slim to none. So one of the things that we're going to, are offering is as an incentive, but also to make sure that Masters fills up, is anybody who's in the side tournament and there that day, if we have availability in Masters, we will upgrade people based off of their rankings. So let's say that you're maybe, ranked 40th in the wild card rankings, and you're in the side tournament, and we have somebody no-show for the Masters, you have a good chance of being upgraded and put into Masters and be able to compete for the Masters tournament. So we're hoping there's enough incentive for people not only to come out for the Masters by the invitation, but also hopefully come for that side tournament for the chance to, one, play a bunch of people from all over the country, and two, have a chance to maybe slide into Masters.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about those West Coasters. You know, they might not make the trip. So I was
it's tough. It's tough, man. And eventually my hope is to, and it's not going to be, definitely not this first year, may not even be the second year, but eventually I'd like it to be hosted in Atlanta, just because that's literally the easiest place for everybody in the country to get to, both price wise and length and time wise.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to get in Atlanta soon.
Yeah, I got family in Atlanta, so I don't have to worry about those hotels. So yeah, let's work on that in Atlanta. Let's get on the road.
All right. Well, Chris, I do appreciate it. And thanks to everybody that listened, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care. Be sure to check out our shop on thirdfloorwars.com for the latest gaming apparel and gear. While you're there, check out how the USFO Tour is shaping up. How does your conference compare to the others in the United States? Where do you rank nationally? Get those models built, painted, and on the table so we can see you at the US Masters Invitational in October of 2020. Also, rate and write a review on this podcast for us. It really helps us find people almost as cool as you are. Thanks for listening. Howdy, friend. Craig here. Is this episode making you realize you need to buy some models? Gadzooks Gaming is my favorite online retailer because of their large selection, killer prices, and great customer service. Don't you hate buying an entire crew box when you only need one model? Gadzooks sells crew box models individually and saves you a ton of money. They even have free shipping to the US and Canada if you spend $100 or more. Swing by gadzooksgaming.com and make sure you tell them Craig from the Third Floor sent you. All the details are in the show notes. All right, cranking along.
Sorry, I cleared my throat that whole entire time.
Oh, yeah, dude, remember, I'm going to edit the shit out of this, so don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, you're nuts for this. I've been talking about doing podcasts for a while, and I'm just like, man, I hate computers.
It's time consuming if you don't want it to sound like shit. How'd that feel? All right.
Felt good. I'm trying to get my flow. It's kind of my first time. You're popping my cherry right now, Craig. So I listen to you all the time. I'm a big podcasting fan. Anything faux, I listen to it, and I listen to it several times. That's how I kind of get my competitive side going. I kind of feel everybody's meta going on. And
cool, man. I appreciate that. All right. So who are we going to probably hit on first?
Well, I'm married, so my wife. I'll probably be hitting.
After that, which model are we going to hit?
Well, the totem's pretty bland. The totem's significant.